Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. And here we're going to continue working on the inks for this Spider-Gwen piece. And yeah, I'm prepping my reference, making sure I get ready. And yes, in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to render from start to finish the both figures. And yes, what I'm going to do now first is what I think is called spotting blacks, which is identifying what areas of the figure are going to be in complete black, and then from there continue with rendering. And by rendering, I'm referring to feathering, and you'll see later in the video what I'm referring to as with feathering. And yes, so here you're going to see my complete inking process, and you're going to see how I differ from other artists that I've seen on YouTube, in that I map out and place my black areas. Um I wouldn't say strategically, but like I no, I'm very precisely pick out where I'm going to put my black areas. So what I do, as you can see here in this video, is I uh, I take a look at the figure, always in reference to the primary light source, and then from there I see where I think the black area would go, and then I mark it out with the pencil. And then after I mark it out with the pencil, um, and go over it with black, and then continue from there. And yes, see, in this character, this is an animated character, so there's not going to be room for a lot of heavy, dense blacks on this character. So it's just a few areas to mess with. And here I have this micron, and this micron is not new. It's a pretty old and worn out micron, and it gives me a line that's pretty small and thin, and which is exactly what I use for just a play. Think of this as similar to what I did in the previous video and just going over the lines on the figure. Here I'm just going over the lines where I think the shading is going to go, and so I don't need to be too precise with the inks. Here I'm just tracing over this line here, and then I'm gonna fill this in. That's the idea. So here, for example, I'm going over this line, and yeah, I'll go over this line with this uh, small tech pen, and then from there, I'm going to erase the pencil marks that I just placed down. I see me erasing there. And why is it that I like to erase? Uh, I like having my artwork completely clean and as black as you can get. Uh, I've noticed and I got this from my time inking, but I've noticed from my first pieces of art that I would draw it all out, I would ink it all out, and then I think the standard thing to do from that is erase the pencils. So when I went to erase the pencils, I noticed that a lot of the ink got lifted up as I erased. Maybe I erased too hard, or I don't know what it could be. I'm pretty sure I erased too hard, but and I didn't like that because after I erased everything that I had inked, I'd have to go back over the ink again, and I realized that I'd end up going over the inks twice, going over the figure like 3 4 times, and I thought, man, that's too much work. And now I do this because for me, it's it's easier to just ink it at once, have it properly inked, nicely inked, and then not have to worry about coming back to that spot again. So that's why I take this approach. And yeah, here I'm using this light just to have a close look as to exactly where that ink goes. This is just something personal because I'm a stickler, I guess, for trying to be as perfect or as near perfect as I can be. I don't want to make sure that I get it in that line and not anywhere outside of that line. And yeah, that's just me being me. And so I need this light to help me see very minute details of the ink, of where I'm placing the ink, because as I said, I like my inks very black, very evenly placed. I don't like to see areas of a drawing where like the ink is a little bit worn out or not covered in black. as it should be. So I try to make sure I cover that as much as I can. And you're also going to see that I use a lot of different tools to ink. All of these tools are tech pens. I'm not too savvy with the crow quill or the brush, so you're not going to see me ink with any of those tools. I use everything with tech pens, and what I have right now is Fudenosuke brush tech pen. I'm not quite sure the name of that brush or that pen, but it's a pen that has like a brush type nib on the tip, and it works really good. And it's the closest thing that I've seen to is the best thing that I've seen that can give me as closest to a brush type effect that I could find. So I use that as as I'm inking, and I love the effects that it gives. I love the feathering that I use with that. So that's my tech pen of choice for right now. Before this, I used a lot of microns. I used a lot of Faber-Castell pens, and anything I can get my hand on really, because I like to see how all of these pens work. And over the years, I've noticed that some things are better for some pens are better for some things that I'm trying to work on than others. So here, for example, I use this tech pen for feathering and rendering, which you'll see later on in the video. And yeah, here I am just working on this. And I'm sorry again for the light. In case it's too confusing, yeah, I'm very sorry about that. It's it's my cell phone light, and I don't have a proper lamp, so I use this, and it works fine for me. I'm doing this as best as it works perfectly fine. I have no qualms about it, and yeah, you can see how I'm laying down the blacks over here on the shadow of the hood, and yes, if you're going to see me go back and forth from this natural light to the cell phone light because I'm constantly changing over, swapping, or figuring out the pen that I'm using. In this case, for example, I'm not too happy with the marks that this tech pen is making. There's going to be areas I'm going to be struggling with using this, but I think I made it work in the end. But I had another one before this that was working just perfect, but this one is not as good as I would have liked it to be. Doesn't give me just a crisp, clean line. And yeah, so you see the two black areas that I have so far, right on her leg, and then the hood. And then other than that, there's not really much room for anything heavier than that. No more other black areas. And any other shading that I'm going to do on this piece is going to be just like the feathering and hatching, which I'll get into in just a moment. And here what I'm doing, which is another part of the rendering process, is laying down thicker line weights along the contour of the figure. Also, the contour of the object. In this case, for example, I'm doing the contour of the webbing and also her arms and her legs. I do this in parts. Like, for example, if I'm working on this hand, I'll do this hand area first, and then I'll swing around. Swing around, or actually just ink wherever it feels more comfortable. And yeah. Now, I'm using this particular pen to do this contour lines because in this drawing, I'm going to have a background. The backgrounds are going to be building, and the buildings are going to be a lot more lines. So one thing that I was suggested to do to help make the figures pop when you have a detailed background of any kind is to use a heavy, thick black line, a thicker line weight in that case. So I'm going to try to do a contour around this figure and around the other Spider-Gwen figure to help give them a nice solid presence on the page. And then from there, I'll do the background with all the buildings, and yeah, you're going to see my process on how on how I go about doing buildings also, and it's a lot different from what I see um, in other tutorials, because I see a lot of people do a lot of grid lines and grid work and establish like a massive, like a map of grid lines in pencil. And I don't do that, and I'll explain why when I get to that part. But I don't do that too much at all. I'm sorry, and yeah. My mentality while I'm inking this, my approach to this style is very. Uh, I'm not trying to say that I draw like this person, but this is the influence that I have as I'm inking this, and this is from Art Adams. If you take a look at his artwork, he has a lot of contour lines on the edges, and then from the contour, he'll like do the hatching, and it's not very gritty. I guess I could say it's very clean hatching. Um, I don't know, that would be the best way to describe it, and maybe somebody could find another word to describe that. Um, but yeah, I like how he does this, and so I'm taking that approach to inking this character. Like, I'm going to do a thick contour line around the figure, and then I'm going to do hatching in areas that require a certain amount of shading. And yeah, so here I'm going into her hood, and and yes, and as you can see, I'm going to move the paper around however I need it, however I need to move it. See, we can see there some of the finishes. And so, as you can see, when I did the inking in the previous video, the idea was just to ink over the lines that were there, erase everything else, and then build on those lines. Here, for example, I'm hatching. I'm doing, this is called feathering, if I'm not mistaken. And this is just me practicing getting into the motions. I recommend practicing a lot. It's always helpful. And practicing doing that is good. It's also something that mysteriously isn't necessary every time you draw. Sometimes I've gone into a drawing without doing that prep work that you just saw, and I was able to hatch it just fine. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I guess it's just however I feel at that time. So here, for example, I'm messing with different ways of hatching, because there's a certain effect that I want to put here on her knuckles, on her fingers, and looking back on it, I think I did pretty good, but I could have probably done better. I probably should have just went in, but I did prep work here, and yeah, so here I go. Yeah. Yes, and that's that one finger. Then I'm going into the next one. And yes, and for this also, for example, I have to mark off with the pencil how far I want those lines to go. Like, I don't want them to go too far. I don't want them to be too short either. I want them to go just about right. Here on the finger, for example, I'm going, as you would say, off script, and just inking by what I think or what feels to me like a good place to throw those lines down. And yeah, not everything is marked beforehand. So here are a few more lines. I always have my primary light source as a reference as I'm inking. I try to keep that in the back of my mind, like where the primary light source is coming from, and then I know that wherever the shape is, on the opposite end of that shape is where you're going to find the blacks, and so the darker areas. Yeah. And you can see, for example, in the Spider-Gwen's hand here, there's the one that I'm currently inking. There's a thick line on the edge, on the contour, and then I'm also inking the inside area of that contour with lines that are not as thick. I want to establish that there's a line there. I want to make it black, but I don't want to make it as thick as the line on the contour, on the edge. That's another part of that's handling your line weights. Like, you're not going to have the same type of line all over the figure. You gotta learn and pick which lines should be thicker, which lines should be thinner, And yeah, that's just with practice. Hopefully you can see. Hopefully through this explanation you can see what how I pick it, how I pick which lines should be thicker and which ones should not be thicker. Here, for example, since this is on the inside of the figure, these lines for the eyes should not be thick at all. They should not be as thick as the line are on the hood, for example. So I'm just trying. What trying to do right now is just go over that line, make it black, but not make it a very very heavy black. And yeah, so here I am working on that. And yeah, since this is an animated figure, there's not going to be a lot of areas here where I have to. There's not going to be a lot of areas here where I have to do a lot of heavy, dense blacks. Not on this character, nor the Spider-Gwen character. Because they're females, normally on females, there's not a lot of heavy black areas, as you would see, like for example on a male superhero character. I'm not going to take the same approach to inking on this as I would, for example, like a Spawn piece, because there's just different aesthetics in that case. No, so I have to I'm trying my best to be true to the aesthetic of this animated character, which is more cartoony-ish, and yeah, in cartoons they don't bother with hatching lines. It's just the shape, and then a shadow that you can put on there through the coloring process, and then that's pretty much it. And you can see this in the coloring books. In the coloring books, you'll see the style of inking that they tend to go with. And so I'm just trying to emulate that. Just trying to get too picky with it. Yeah, and I'm sorry that my glasses are here. They're gonna be close. You're gonna see a lot of them during this inking process, because there's some areas here that I want to be very accurate and precise on. So I get in there, you know. So um and yeah. Yeah. And yes, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be putting more and more of these videos up as I work on all of these pieces. My plan is to also do videos like this as I'm doing pages for my book, which will probably be next year. I'm sorry, but pages on my book probably get started next year because I want to make sure I get the story right. And yeah, but I plan on doing videos like this for everything. So hopefully you'll be able to see me as I make the comic, and the comic is going to be I don't know how many pages, but it's going to be a lot. And and yeah, so you get to see the whole process from beginning to end. And yeah, I'll be working on other fan art pieces. Commissions, I don't think I'll be able to show you like this. I'll ask the client if it's okay if I can film as I'm drawing their piece, but it's up to the client. Sometimes they ask for, it's understandable. No, they ask for complete secrecy until the project comes out. Yeah, here what you see me draw is a circle in pencil with a P in it. It's just the light source, the primary light source, which is the P's for primary light source. I put that there just as a reference, and so I try to make sure that the blacks are on the opposite side of that P on any shape. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to it than just that. And if you would like to see me get into the into the specifics about how that works, how that happens, or how I approach it, then yeah, I have no problem doing that. I can do a video for that also. Please comment any suggestions or any things that you'd like to see in the video, and I'll be more than happy to go through that process with you so you can see how it is that I get to that logic. You know? And yeah, I'm sorry if you hear background noise. I try my best to minimize it, but there's a lot of things going on. And where I live in an apartment building, and the neighbors are very close, and so very we can hear dogs, we can hear cars passing by, we can hear people having conversations. So I'm very sorry if any of that gets to you. I'm sorry, but that's how it is over here in the mean streets of Lima, Peru. And yeah, so yeah, I'm going back now. Now that I put these blacks in, I'm gonna start feathering, start doing the hatching, and here I'm putting these lines. And that when I do this, I can do this also in another video if it's necessary. But when I do this, I try my best to have the lines hug the shape of what I'm drawing. So you'll see, for example, there's areas where I put the lines closer together, and there's areas where I spread the lines out, and I do that not because I'm crazy, but I do that because I'm trying to capture the shape of the object, which is always the idea, always the goal. No, try to use the feathering line so you can define the shape that's there, and so that's what I'm trying to do. The areas that require more shadow, I try to go back in and hatch it a little bit more. And the areas that don't have a lot of shadow, I try to space out the lines so you can see that that area is a lot more. It's pointing towards the light and away from the shadow. So yeah, so after in this case, after I finish doing the hatching, I take my eraser and then I erase the lines there, and then after that I'm done with that area. So yeah, that for example, I'm going to leave it with that heavy black and those feathering lines, and then I will not erase that for fear that if I try to erase it, then I'm going to be picking up the ink. So yeah, I'm done with that hood area, for example. No? Now I'm taking a look at the character, stand back and take a look at it and see what other areas might need a little bit of shadowing. So I go back in with hatching, and so I saw that this side of the hood might need a little bit of shadows. Um, so always help define the shape. You know? The idea is always help define the shape. Unless there's other areas where I'm just trying to make it look like gritty, worn out. If I'm trying to put in a certain kind of texture to it, and yeah. So here I'm just looking at the PC. What else? Where else I could put in some blacks or some shadowing, and then working on that. So here I'm going to jump into this leg area, and here we go. I forgot to zoom in during this part of the drawing of the inking. In the other videos that you'll see, I was able to zoom in as I'm doing the hatching for this. So please don't get discouraged if you wanted me to see if you wanted to see me do this, because I will zoom in on the hatching as I do it on the other Gwen Stacy. So please bear with me. Um, so yeah, so I'm swapping out again for the other pen as I do the contour. So here I'm doing the contour of the body. And on this case, for example, I mean this body, this is it is. I mean it's not. There's not a lot of areas here where I can go in with the heavy blacks. So I'm just going to do the contours and maybe a few little hatching lines here or there. Nothing too serious, nothing too major. And then yeah, then I'll jump onto the other Spider-Gwen here. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. I will be uploading more videos like this. Hopefully, I don't know if it's possible. I probably might do some live streaming, but I don't know, because I think during live streams I can't mute out the background noise, and there's a lot of background noise here. And I hadn't realized that until I started doing this. It's like, wow, there's a lot of people in the back. I guess you just get used to like your surroundings, and then I just draw, and then I never noticed that there's cars passing by, there's dogs barking, there's sounds of everything. But yeah, and or maybe I have to get a better mic to mute that stuff out. I don't know. It's a learning process. My whole artistic career, I guess you could say, has been a learning process. As one problem has led to finding solutions for some things, and then it's led to other things, and it's crazy, no? But yeah, but here I am. Here I am with this channel, and I'm going to commit. I mean, the problem why I didn't start this before was because I couldn't set up the camera right to the way I like it. But now I got the camera, and the camera doesn't bother me at all. So I'm able to draw as I would normally draw, and and also recording good content for the channel, which is great. So and yeah, it's a win-win situation for everybody. And and yeah, so I mean, I'm going to continue making these videos, and I'm going to continue showing my process. I don't know if I'm going to be narrating everything. I don't know what you guys feel about the narration, because as I'm narrating this, I'm explaining to you my thought process behind why I put the lines down the way that I do. I don't know if that's something that you like to hear, or if you'd rather just see me draw and then just learn or observe from what it is that I do. Um, I don't know. I just get this feeling that from an artistic perspective, I always thought that it was cool to jump into the mind of the artist as he's drawing and see why he's putting that specific line there. So that's the approach I'm taking. Um, if you guys have other ideas or think maybe something else would be better, then I'm completely open to whatever suggestions you might have. So please share and yeah, any ideas that help me out, help us all out, and that'll be great. So yeah, I'm going to continue making content, and if I get a commission, I'll ask the client if I can record the complete drawing session, and if they say yes, then yeah, I'll do that also. I'm also going to do video recordings of myself as I draw fan art pieces. And for example, the last fan art that I did was for Type 1 and Reaper Destroyer. I did a video on that explaining just some behind the scenes aspects of the Reaper Destroy, but I want to do another video for Streets also. And yeah, that was the last fan art piece that I did. Unfortunately, I hadn't set up the camera as I was doing that, which that would have been cool to see it also unfold. But yeah, I could do that for future projects. Like for example, a project that I have in mind that I would really like to do is a U.S. Assassin fan art piece. So hopefully, um, we can see that happen too. Maybe in the next few videos. And here, I'm sorry. Here, what we saw just now is that I noticed that there was a line, that the line was not consistent as I was drawing it, and I'm trying to look at see what's happening. This is a Faber-Castell pencil. I guess I pressed down too hard on it, and the nib, the tip, I think it broke on me on with this one, and so I'm bringing in this other pen to replace it, and which is weird because that usually doesn't happen. Um, but uh, but yeah, that well, I'm sorry, it does happen from time to time that I'll take pen and then I'll draw it, and then the quality of that pen isn't as others are, and so like the line will not be consistent, or it'll smudge a lot, and which I hope doesn't happen during this, but yeah, that can be an issue that might pop up, and so yeah, now yeah, which is really strange with these pens and this particular piece is that uh, I don't know how I could say this, but like it feels like my pens are acting up, like they're not. Maybe they have stage fright. Maybe I have stage fright, but for some reason I'm not getting the lines that I would normally get. But as you can see, I mean, it doesn't affect the artwork too much. I think the artwork looks great, but it looks good right now. It looks good, but but yeah, I'm going back and making sure I have the line that I'm making is the line that I want. Yeah, and there's that pen again. But I think I found out what the problem is, and I'm able to work with the problem. Cause or I think I am. I don't know. I'm testing it out again. I'm going back and forth. Undecided. Undecided. And so here I'm gonna. This is I'm gonna start feathering this area here. And yeah, I want to center this, so make sure you guys can see how I do this. just swift motions. Just swift short motions. That's why when I do the pencils, I try to make those same motions so I can just get a constant feel, a constant practice, I guess you can say, of making those motions because they affect the feathering a lot. Yeah, here I'm just finding excuses to put lines down because the figure doesn't really call for it. But I guess I could just put a few lines here, and which is something that I got from Art Adams. I took a look at some of his artwork. I constantly look at his artwork, and if the figure is like completely round, with like a flat round surface, you'll still find a way to put in some feathering lines around it on just the very bottom edge of it, and yeah, I'm doing that here also, and yeah, so here I'm doing the contour lines for this leg. Just taking the same approach, doing in this case the approach for this is doing the contour lines and then doing the hatching where it's needed, and then also blackening. I guess you can say blackening the lines that are already placed, and just want to make sure that the lines are there and you can see them. And yes, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And comment. If you have any questions about anything, please comment. And here we go again. Here we go. Yeah, I'll bring that. This is that tech pen that messed up on me. But I'm figuring out how to work with it. So doing those lines here. See, so the idea isn't to put a thick line. It's just put a line down and make it black. Black. I like black. Yeah, as I've inked more and more, I just learned to love it so much. Inking is awesome. I have a lot of fun inking, and yeah, I have a lot of influences for inking, and I try to look at all different styles. And there's so much to learn out there, and I try to pick as much as I can, and then implement it. And yeah, I want to show you guys what it is that I learned along the way, and see maybe if you guys can learn from some of it. I think it's gonna be helpful either way. Like either you learn something that you could do, or learn something that you shouldn't do. Like no, don't do that. But yeah. Yeah, there's not much else I can do on that figure on those legs, so I'm quickly moving to the hand and the arm here, and there's not much I can do there either. It's just go over these lines, make sure they're nice and black, and then should be almost done with this Spider-Gwen piece. Like for example, on the mask, on the eyes, I mean, there's not much I can do on that. It's a cartoon, and I know for example in this piece, that I'm going to color this. I have to color this also, so I'm going to scan this, and then after I scan it, I'll color this piece so I know some of the things here. If I'm trying to define any shapes that I could do that definition, I can do on Clip Studio. So I'll just worry about that when it gets to that. No, but for right now, no, I'm just going over the lines, making sure everything is okay. And yeah. Yeah, the figure looks nice. I like it. I like how it came out. And yeah, Spider-Gwen's gonna be next after this. Yeah, in this video, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to split it into 2 videos because of the time that it take me to do this. I have about 2 hours of content. One second. Yeah, here. I sat back. I looked at the figure. I looked at the primary source of the light source, and my initial reaction was to put those hatching lines there on the feet. Put something either to show shadowing or to show texture. I decided to put these lines here. and yeah, I mean, always when I ink, when I draw anything, I'll work on something, I'll stop, and then I'll zoom out, I'll stand back. And Brett Booth gave me that recommendation. He said, step back, take a look at it, at the page, and make sure that what you see is what you want the viewer to see. And he commented that on my art. This was years ago. I know, I'm sorry, not that long ago, like maybe 2 years ago, a year ago. And yeah, Brett Booth is awesome. He's an excellent artist, and he's also very open to questions. And when I found out about that, I asked him a few questions on two pieces, and he was kind enough to respond back. And then and yeah, so the pointers that he gave are things that I applied. You know? So I stand back, take a look at it, see if I'm happy with the piece, see if I'm happy with the lines that I made, and if everything is okay, then I continue working. And if not, then I just have to readjust. So yeah, here for example, I'm looking at elements for the Spider-Gwen piece because I'm going to start inking her, and now Spider-Gwen, for example, is not a character that I normally draw a lot. Like for example, like won't compare her to Spider-Man. 'Cause Spider-Man, for example, I draw a lot, and I can draw Spider-Man without thinking. But her, for example, like I have to see where I'm going to put the shadows to her costume, and I know that the whole bottom half of her costume is in black, so I have to be careful of where I put the blacks at, because what I do not want to do is go back later and use the whiteout on her costume. I'm going to try not to. It's always the goal not to use whiteout. So what I'm doing here is highlighting the areas where that are these areas that I'm highlighting would normally be in shadow, but since I'm working with black, it's the opposite effect. So these areas, for example, they have to be left in white. And so this is going to be it's a tricky process of trying to find out where the white is going to go, where the black is going to go. And I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who does this. So I mean, so bear with me as you see how I try to get through this process um, of placing the whites and blacks on her costume here. So it's tedious for me because there's so many styles, there's so many different ways to approach a black costume. I've done a few different ways, um, and it's really difficult to find something that you're happy with. So I mean, I've looked, as you can see here, I'm looking at J. Scott Campbell. I've looked at Finch. I've looked at at Art Adams, at any black and white art that I could find, so they can give me an idea of where to lay the blacks. And I also have to keep in mind that primary light source. So I have to try to figure out where the white would hit on her costume, um, and yeah, and try to place the shadows where it's necessary. So so I'm going to try to place the shadows here, and I'm going to do this again in pencil. Then I'm going to go over it in ink. I'm going to erase the pencils, and then I'm going to go in and then render the black, color in the black, fill in all the colors, and then ink. I also have to define the shapes here, make sure that um, that the shapes are that the shapes coincide and are cohesive and coherent with the lighting. So it's a tedious process, and because I like to plan this out, like I don't just do this at random, so it's even more work for me. I mean, I'll eventually, I'm assuming when I get more comfortable with this, I'll be able to like add spontaneous whites and blacks on the page. Yeah, see that line, for example. But yeah, I guess as I get more experience with things, I'll be able to lay this down without much thought to it. Because I've seen, for example, Jim Lee, like when he does his inking, he just lays the black down, and wherever the black falls, that's where it's inked. Like I mean, he has an incredible amount of confidence with his inking, It's really envious. I wish I could just lay it down and make it look cool as in. I mean, he's been drawn for years. I mean, like it's understandable, but yeah, I hopefully I will get to that stage one day, and yeah, who knows? I mean, but yeah, that's the target. That's the aim. David Finch also, like when he inks, he just lays it down. It's like almost like innately just puts it down to where it needs to be, and then just works with it. And like I don't see either one of those guys do this kind of prep work for it. It always blows me away when I see them do stuff like that. And and yeah, but me for example, no, I have to make sure that I know. I have to make sure that I know exactly where the blacks are going to go, where the white areas are going to be at, and that for me that requires a certain amount of prepping, and so and this is me doing that prep work. And that prep work is going to take me all over the drawing. I got to work out the legs and also the lower half of her body. But yeah, so here you can see that I'm shading in where I want the white area to be, and which would in turn which it reflects it shows where the light source is hitting on the fabric. And I also like to put a certain amount of rim lighting. Um, um, I have a philosophy on like an idea of on rim lighting. I don't like to use it too much. I used to use it all the time, and I was told that it was it's not always a good idea to use rim lighting because sometimes it's good to just hide certain aspects of a shape inside the black areas. So now I tend to do that, and I don't use rim lighting too much. And the reason why I'm using rim lighting here is because I'm not 100% sure how the buildings are going to look when they are against the character. So I'm gonna put some rim lighting on this just in case if I need it, and and um, and if I need it, then it'll stay. And if I don't need it, if I see that I can get away with doing an entirely black area, then I'll go for that, and I have no problem doing that at all. And yeah, rim lighting is something characteristic of comic art, but not necessarily something that you'll see in everyday real life. Those rim lighting to the way that some people do it in comics isn't as it's seen in comics. Now you don't have rim lighting on both sides like that all the time. So yeah. And yeah, here for example, you see me erase that area. The reason why I'm doing that is because every time I do this lighting effect on black areas, whether it be leather pants or just a black character in general, like for example, if I'm drawing Black Panther or Spider-Man, something like that, I'm always I'm not 100% sure how to make it work. Like I'm not 100% sure how much black I should use, and how much lighting I should leave off. And so I'm always like going back and forth, fighting where I think the light would reflect, how it would reflect, and yeah, it's a constant struggle for me to make it show up how I like it. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you've seen this before, but the X's that I'm laying down are they indicate where the black is going to go. So I always wonder why they would do that. Like I never thought that it would be necessary to put an X right there. But after inking my own work for all this time, it does help me out because I tend to get lost in the lines. Like I'll take a look at it, then I'll think to myself like, wait, is this supposed to be black or is this supposed to be white? And many times have happened where I have inked on white areas or the areas that I should have left off white, and vice versa also, and and yeah, so it it's annoying. Sometimes I let it slip, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll go back and put it out with a whiteout, which I hate, but I try my best to plan it to so that I won't have to use whiteout at all. And here, for example, we can see that the white area on the lower half on her shin, it matches better with the thigh. So that's what I'm going to go with. And here you're going to see me start inking, and yeah, and actually right now I'm just stepping back, taking a look at it, making sure that what I see is what I like. That's the reason why you see this, for example, fading from where I stopped the video and I started the video again, because I had to take a close look at it, make sure it is what I wanted, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start inking. Here I think I'm gonna do the contour lines first, or it could be the black lines. Yeah, either the contouring or yeah, I think the contouring is what's gonna go first, and. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and start inking this, and many times while I'm inking, I will notice that I'll plan it out as you have seen here. I'll plan out the way that I want the inks to go, and then I'll execute the inks, and then the executed ink doesn't look as good as I thought it would, and that happens to me here. You're gonna see later on how I regret having planned it out like this. And luckily, I find a quick fix for it. But yeah, here I am putting in these lines and marking this out. And yeah, I don't lay this down innately. I have to plan all this out, so I just make sure I have it looking the way that I want it to look, and to where it makes sense. You know? And yeah, slowly and surely, this is how I do my inks. I do it one area at a time, and I used to like spot all the blacks first, and then continue moving along, and then do the feathering after I spotted the blacks. But these last, I would say maybe two or three, no, the last 3 or 4 drawings, I have been working in the way where like I'll spot blacks and render in one area, and then move on to the next area, spot blacks and render, move on to the next area, spot blacks and render, do the feathering and all that, and just leave areas finished. It's something similar to what I'm doing here, because here, for example, I started with the animated Spider-Gwen, and I worked off with the head, the hood, the body, the lower leg, and as I was doing it, I was also rendering it. So now that Spider-Gwen, for example, is finished. There's not much more I think I'm going to do to that. And so now I'm moving on to the next section, which is Spider-Gwen. And since I'm doing the blacks, I'm starting off with the legs, which helps me out also because the leg is also what happens to be the closest to the viewer. And I think I mentioned this in the previous video, that when I ink, I almost always tend to ink from the foreground to the background. I think in the previous video I said it wrong. I think I said I misspoke and said forward. I'm not sure. I don't know. But yeah, I tend to ink what is in the foreground first, and then move and work my way back. Now, so in this case, in this drawing, what apparently is closest to the viewer is the animated Spider-Gwen and the hand. So I started working with that first, and then now I'm moving to Spider-Gwen's thigh and her legs, and then from here, for example, her arm that's in between her legs, and then I'll move upwards into the head, and then for example, the spider webbing in this case is going to be the last thing that I render. And I don't know if you remember this from the previous video, but the first thing I inked was the spider webbing. In this case, the spider webbing is going to be the last thing that I work on. So that's the rhythm that I'm going to try to get to in this case. And here, for example, you can see I'm marking out where the black area is going to be at, and then using the brush to finish that. And yeah, slowly but surely, this is how I build. This is how I do my inks. Yeah, and in this case, for example, it has to be a little bit more precise, a little bit cleaner, because working with characters that female characters, and female characters aren't usually rugged, gritty drawings or designs. They're usually very sleek and they're graceful. There's a certain elegance to the female form that you don't see on the human on the male body, and so I'm trying to complement that, not work against it, but just complement it and try to um, make this as smooth and streamless as I possibly can, so I can try to show off that elegance, from Spider-Gwen in this case. I try to do that with all my drawings, which is one of the reasons why I like Jay Scott so much, because he gives a certain elegance to his art. Obviously, there's that sexuality, that sexual appeal to it, which I'm whatever about it. I mean, I don't try to draw overly sexy characters. I try to give them a certain amount of grace to it, and and he executes that very well. I think his figure work is amazing. So I use him as a reference for that, and he draws women very very well, very very good. I like how he draws women, and he definitely works with the beauty aspect, and because not all artists do that. Some artists they will focus on the on a more realistic approach to it, and then they'll draw like all the lines. For example, like on a woman's nose, they'll draw all the lines, and in some cases it looks nice, in some cases it doesn't, and they'll draw like a lot of things with, just trying to be realistic with the art. But Jay Scott, he pulls off that realism without many lines, and he also keeps that elegance and grace to it, which was something that I really like, and I obviously try to emulate that, and and yeah, so that's why I'm trying to keep the line work here as clean as I can. And here, for example, in marking off the X's, make sure I know exactly where I have to put that black. Man, because it'd be disastrous if I do it on the other side. And this happened to me before. It happened to me, I think, like 3 or 4 drawings ago. I did those drawings with the symbiotes. And there's an area that I marked off. You can't really tell looking at it now. But there's an area that I marked off that I was supposed to be in white that I ended up going over with black. And it just... and I hadn't even noticed until like later, much later. I was like, "Oh wait, that wasn't supposed to be shaded in black. That was supposed to be kept white." Oh man, and I just left it, but because it didn't really, interfere with what you got from the drawing. Like you saw the symbiotes that were posed, and then and you were able to tell that was what the pose needed to be, and my mistake hadn't changed that. Sometimes you'll make mistakes where it's eye popping and it's like abundantly clear, like there's a mistake there, and no matter what you try to do to hide it, like it just like comes through the pencils and the inks. Like it's the first thing that your eye catches when you look at the drawing. Those kinds of mistakes are serious mistakes that I try not to make, and if it's really bad, then I'll just go ahead and just do the drawing all over again. There's sometimes you have mistakes like that. Other times you have mistakes where it's not noticeable to the viewer. It'll be noticeable to just the person, just to the artist. And in those cases, you can do some quick adjustments and walk around it, play around it. But but yes, in the previous mistake that I made, the last mistake that I made, it wasn't too bad. The viewer wouldn't be able to notice unless it looked really really close. And here I have begun filling out this black, and as I'm filling out this black, um, and I'm using this it's a tech pen if I'm not mistaken. That's what I would call it, but it has like a brush tip to it, and it's really really good. I love it, and it can be precise also if you ease up on the pressure. I can use it to ink very precise areas and also big wide open areas, and I use this just to outline and the inks. Later, you're going to see I'm going to use another brush pen to go over this. and and yeah, hopefully you like the commentary. Um, if you do, please let me know. If you don't, also please let me know. I think it's a pretty interesting idea to hear an artist's commentary as he's working on the art. And and yes. So here we have. Yeah, I'm just coloring this in all black. And speaking of something also that I wanted to point out, and I also want to touch on this a little bit now that this is happening right now. But a few days ago we found out that Neil Adams had died, and I'm really bummed out by that. He's a master draftsman, and man, just can't say enough good things about Neil. He's an awesome artist, and I've seen him. I've seen a few videos on YouTube where he's teaching other artists how to do stuff. And one thing that I saw from him was in terms of inking, and I think coloring also. I think it applies to, but um, he always said that, or he said in the video, to ink and to draw the line where your hand is, on the side where your hand is, and not on the opposite side, which is another reason why I turn the paper so much, because I want to make sure that number one, I know where the line is going that I'm drawing, and I think I'll have to do a video to explain better what I'm talking about. And like I'm drawing from the left, so I'm going to ink on the left side of any line. I'm not going to ink on the right side. I don't know if this is coming off or not. It's understandable, but I think I might have to draw or do another video to show that to you. But yeah, I remember that tip that Neil gave, and it helps a lot because there's some lines or some angles that you can color, and then if you color it in those angles, you're not going to see exactly where the pen is going, and so you'll make a line that was not intended to be where you wanted it, and that's happened to me many times. So since hearing Neil mention that comment, I've been approaching it differently. So see, I'm coloring on the left side of the line, not on the right side. And in this case, because I can see here, in this case here. But yeah, I was on the left side. And yeah, I can fill in that area with this. But there's bigger areas where I have to use the other brush. Now see, for example, I'm always painting on the left side of the line. That's why I turned the paper here. And if I was painting it on the other side, I'd lose the sight of where the ink's going, and I can make mistakes that are not intended. And so here, as I'm going to the other line, I'm going to start flipping the paper over. Yep. So I can draw on that left side of the line. And man, just that alone has saved me so much trouble, because I know exactly where the pen is going to go. I know exactly where it starts at and where it's going to end, and so I know that I have a lot more control in that case. And I can avoid many more mistakes. So yeah, rest in peace, Neil Adams, man. Man, what an awesome artist, man. His figure work is, oh my god, dynamic too, man. His figure work is awesome. Rest in peace, Neil. I don't usually get bummed out by some of these deaths, but man, sometimes just the magnitude of the work that they've laid out for us is just so much that it merits a mention. Like for example, the day that George Perez goes, that's going to be a really sad day too, because man, his work with figures is just so amazing. So amazing how he's able to put so many characters on the page and have each character doing something and being able to tell a story and draw an epic battle on the double page spreads, and oh man, just so amazing. So amazing, George Paris. It was sad to hear about him, but I understand his decision to step away, and and there's certain beauty in the fact that you get to have 6 months to say to live out your last few days and just say your goodbyes while you can. There's a certain beauty to that, and yeah, but yeah, those kinds of guys, man, just just wish you they could stick around forever. And yeah, so now what I'm doing is I'm stepping back and I'm looking at the leg, making sure that it is what I like, and just telling you right now that I do not like how this looks. Um, I'm going to try my best to do something with this, but I'm not a big fan at all to what I have here. So I'll see what happens. But yeah, I have doubts about this leg, but despite the doubts, I'm going to continue working, and I'm going to work on this other leg and start inking this. And you'll see in the next part. I think it's in the next part. I hope it's in the next part. How I modify the lighting on that leg. I don't like it because I think it's just too close to that line. I think there should be a bigger space of black in between there, but you'll get to see it when I make the changes. And yeah, so here I'm gonna go in and start outlining this black area and making sure I have the rest of this stuff also filled in, because no matter what doubts I may have, the show must go on, and I have to still get this inked. And also, I know deep down that I can find a solution to this. So I mean, it's not too big of a deal. The mistake that I'm looking at on the legs, and yeah, hopefully soon enough you'll be able to see what it is that I do to that. I'm pretty sure it's in the next video because I remember taking a break during this, and and yeah, it's not. I don't think it'll be that serious. And so here I'm going back and switching out into this big thicker brush. This helps me cover these big black areas a lot quicker. And sometimes I have areas that are this size. Sometimes I have them even bigger or much bigger. And for those cases when there's like a lot of areas of black to fill in, I use a Q-tip to fill those black areas in. And hopefully in one of these drawings you'll get to see me do that. If I do, I'll be able to show you. If you're curious as to how I do that and you'd like to see a video on it, please leave a comment in the comment section and let me know. And yeah, so Q-tips help out a lot, and it leaves a nice smooth finish across all of the black area that you're coloring, and it's really good. It's also good to have good ink to do that with also. And I mean, I have heard from a bunch of artists that there's good quality inks, there's bad quality inks. I don't know exactly. I mean, what kind of ink quality I can find here in Peru, but I have found one that it's that is able to do what I like with it. Just cover an area with a nice solid black, um, and yeah, so I use that. And I noticed that most inkers that talk about the kind of ink are usually ones that work with either brushes or quills, and I work with neither. So, I mean, that information to me right now is probably not going to really help me out too much. But yeah, there's different kinds of inks out there, and the Q-tip, in my experience with it, has worked really well, really well. And yeah, so I'm working and chipping away at this, getting this bottom half done. Yeah, see, there's a fade from one camera angle to the next, and the reason is because still thinking about what to do with that lighting source. And yeah, and here actually, it's not in the next video; it's in this video. Here you're gonna see how I correct this part here. And what I'm trying to do actually is just put in more black areas between the light sourcing and the edge of her leg. So I'm going to color this in, and I fill this out and do the same thing on the shin. I'll flip it around and go over an area that I think should be a little bit, a little bit more black to it. And I was thinking about freehanding that, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna ruin it if I freehand it. Trying to keep a consistent elegance and streamlessness to it. And I know I can't do that with my hands, so I'll make sure that I do it right with this. And yeah. While I'm at it, I'll link this line here. I'll link this next line here. Then I'll jump into the next lace line. And slowly but surely, I start working on all these lines and making sure they're inked just the way that I like it. And yeah. You'll be able to see how I leave this leg before when this video is finished. And then the next video, I'm going to continue rendering the rest of Spider-Gwen. And these videos also help me so I can get to time and see how long it takes for me to do a piece, how long it takes for me to render some of this. And yeah, so far we've been working at this for a few hours, I don't know. So yeah, it is a lot. And yeah, I'm not happy with the tip on this tech pen, so I'm always testing it out before I get to it, before I actually start inking on the actual piece, which is something that I recommend because you don't want to start inking when you're not sure. I've also had cases where I've wanted to ink with a thin line, and I use a certain caliber, I guess you can say, of pen, tech pen, only to realize that I picked up the wrong pen and I put like a big old smear across the board, and oh man, and I have to end up using whiteout, which sucks. I don't like how whiteout looks like against the board. It's almost like you're trying to finish like you're trying to touch up like, yeah, I mean, it shows that you made a mistake there, and I'm not trying to avoid as much as I can mistakes. I think I have a few drawings that have no whiteout on them, which I'm really proud of. It's just me, because I know, for example, like Jim Lee, he throws whiteout on everything, and he don't really care. He just puts whiteout on everything. Like he probably wouldn't do wouldn't be doing what I do here. He'll probably just grab a whiteout pen and just draw that white line across it, and then that would be the end of it for him. But I personally just don't like how it looks. Just preferences, I guess. Because I know when you scan these drawings, you can scan it and then modify it all you want also. And that's also something I learned as I've been posting my artwork, is that later on, when you scan it, you can modify things also with the scan. You can put in white areas, black areas, you can fix things, and I do that also sometimes. With things that bug me, so there could be something that's like, no man, just hate how this looks, and I just go back and touch it up in digital, if it's possible, because I don't like spending too much time with digital. I mean, I think the time that I spend should be in this traditional phase here. So yeah, for example, see that white line running across the leg? I think that looks a little bit better compared to what I had before. Because I probably would have done something different looking back at this. Or probably not. I don't know. Who knows? And now that I've seen that this works for this leg, I want to make sure I have it right for the next leg also. So I'm prepping the black areas for that, so that when it comes time to ink that, it'll be precise. It'll be better than what I have now. And yeah, I'll have the rim lighting here colored out. Yeah. You could take a look at some other art pieces of mine, or I could just give you some examples, and then you can see why I use, in what cases I use rim lighting, in what cases I don't. And in case you're curious where I get all of this feedback from, I post my artwork on this web forum called Pencil Jack. Well, I used to. I haven't posted in a while, but when I first started drawing, I was eager to get feedback from anyone and anywhere. So I was looking for places where I thought people would give feedback, and I came across Pencil Jack, and I tried it out once, posting some of my earlier artwork from 2019, like a few years ago, and I was really surprised by the feedback that I got. I was the community itself is very welcoming. They were able to give me a lot of feedback and commentary on things that they thought I needed to improve on, and that's exactly where an artist should have a thick skin, because they say things that could be, that someone could take offense to, or just be upset, no, because they're attacking the art that you're posting, in a certain way. No, I guess attacking wouldn't be the best word, but they do give great feedback. They've given me a lot of feedback. They've opened my eyes to a lot of things about comic book art that I had not known before. Like, for example, line weights, also proportions. They also recently pointed out this thing that I have with this rim lighting situation, and yeah, I mean, I'm open to critiques, to feedback, to any opinions, and if you have any, please share them. Like I always mention in my videos, I don't claim to have the truth about art. I do art in the way that I've been exposed to it. So I like to take the information that I receive, and then apply it, and yeah, I mean, as a consequence of doing that, I've seen that my art has improved, and I'm happy where my art is at now. And so yeah, but it doesn't mean that there's no room for learning. There's always room for learning, and yeah. So if you have time, I would recommend checking out penciljack.com. You have to create an account, and then you post your work, and then you'll get feedback and critique from them. And yeah, I mean, some people might say that it's harsh, but I think it's really good work, really good critique. And anything that can come at you, from a perspective of trying to help you, it's always going to be good for you and in your artwork, and it's going to help you grow as an artist. And also, here's a plus. Also, there's a professional comic book artist, Paul Smith. Um, I think he's most of you guys, or those that are aware in the comic community, will know him as Smitty. And yeah, he regularly critiques on um, on Pencil Jack, and he gives awesome feedback. And yeah, and the feedback you get from him is really good, because it's coming from a pro that's worked years in comics. And I've gotten a lot of knowledge of information from him, and he's really good, and he'll take time out of his schedule to take a look at your art, and he'll tell you exactly where it's wrong, and he'll draw over your art, and he'll show you, like, this is how you should do it, and this is how you should pose this out. And yeah, in the process of doing that, he'll completely destroy your art. And I'm like, this is crappy. If it's crappy, he'll say it's crap, but no, but then he'll show you exactly how you need to fix it, improve it, and then if you're willing to apply the knowledge that he gives you, then yeah, it's definitely a plus. So if you got time, check that out. It's a good recommendation that I can give. I promise that you will not regret it. And yeah, they help you out a lot, and they've helped me out a lot. And yeah, if anybody from Pencil Jack is watching this, hey, thank you. Please like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll be sure to post this artwork later so you guys can critique it and give me some more feedback. They're a great crowd. And yeah, so here also, like in these videos, I'm trying to just transmit the knowledge that I've learned, that I've gained from them. And I mean, not just them. I mean, I've been able to get critique from a lot of artists, from a lot of people, not necessarily artists, from a lot of people, and then I've been learning a lot of things as I go. And these videos is just my way of transmitting the information that I learned to someone else out there who might need help, or who might be looking for help and not know where to find it. And yeah, just adding my contributing my whatever I can to someone's learning process. And here, for example, I'm touching up over the web, and just this first part of the web, and what corresponds to no what is affecting this area of the arm doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to start jumping into rendering the web completely. Just this part, and yeah, in the next video, I'm going to go in and finish up with the rest of these with the rest of this character, and just finish up on the webbing and finish up on rendering the figure itself. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment also, please, and share the video out. And yes, I've since doubled the amount of subscribers since posting around on social media that I have the channel, and I just want to thank everybody out there who's subscribing, who's liking, who's watching. If you're watching now, I really appreciate it. You're supporting. By watching this, you're supporting a very local artist, and really happy. And yeah, so I'm also like, if you have any comments or ideas about anything else that you'd like to see, please let me know. I think you will be aware that I'm very open to any critique or feedback or any recommendations that can help improve the channel and the videos and everything in general. And so yes, I'm going to finish out this bottom part of this leg, this area here, and I'm changing out tech pens. I'm using this number 2, I think it is O2, to doing this line work here. And here you're going to see, for example, how I render the shoe. I might make some adjustments to this, but you can see here how I start rendering in this. The areas that are not black, the actual shoe and the lace, the ballet shoe and the lace. So yeah, I change out with I change out a lot between pens, because there's certain pens that give a certain line that I like or that I need for a particular area. So I'm always changing. There's also pens that cover a lot of black areas, so I use those also a lot. And so you'll see me jump back and forth a lot, which I think is not a problem that artists with crow quills have, because they can just apply more pressure and cover more areas. But in my case, no, I have to use different pens, tech pens, and they have their benefits. Their pros and cons also. Like I find a lot of different brands, a lot of different sizes, and yeah, they all work. They all serve a purpose, and it's just a matter of applying them and using them as the tools that they are. So yeah, I mean, I'm game for using any and all kinds of pens. And yeah, I was unsure about which kind of pens to use at first, and I started watching a lot of videos and then noticing the kind of tools that other artists use, and trying to see if I can get a hold of some of those pens here. And I've been lucky enough to find the ones that I've been looking for. So and I'm happy with the ones that I have now. So I don't think I want to change too much in terms of pens. I may one day venture out into crow quills, but I'm not too sure. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to see if the benefits outweigh the difficulties of getting it. We'll just have to see in the future what happens. But yes, I'm going to wrap it up here. In the next video, you're going to see me continuing to work on the same Spider-Gwen piece, and I'm going to render the top half of this figure. And that is it. That is all for today. Thank you very much for watching. And please remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.